Now today, our session is about From Budget to Breakthrough, how Logitech is personalizing benefits at scale. What does it really take to design and fund a personalized benefits program? Today's lesson, we'll talk about how Logitech built lifestyle spending accounts, that's LSAs for short, that reflect the needs of diverse workforces. You'll get a behind-the-scenes look at how leaders have made the business case, got cross-functional buy-in, and scaled customizable spending account programs, along with the impact they're seeing since implementing them. Today's webinar is being presented with support from Forma, and I'll tell you a bit about them. Forma is a flexible benefits platform and a global leader in LSAs, supporting 300 customers with employees around the globe. Now, a few quick logistical items before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and it'll be available to you on demand soon after the event, so you can look out for an email in about 24 hours with that link. The same email will have info on how you can get professional development credits for this session from SHRM and HRCI, and there'll be a written account of this conversation on our website at fromdayone.com. Now, 45 minutes into the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session. That's for you, and you can submit your questions anytime using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. With all that said, let's get started and meet today's speakers. We're joined by Julia McCarrel, who's the head of benefits for Americas and global programs at Logitech, and Kathleen Harris. She's a solutions consultant at Forma. So Julia and Kathleen, welcome, and please take it away.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you from Day One team for hosting us today. I'm super excited to get to speak with Julia about her experiences with LSAs. To be sure we're aligned, a lot of people are familiar with LSAs, but some people still need to learn a little bit more about them and how they can be used. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes going over what a lifestyle spending account is. You may have heard LSA term used very broadly, so you could have an LSA that has almost anything you can imagine in it, from well-being to convenience to work from home, or you could have a very specific type of LSA which covers one thing like caregiving or return to office or education. Julia is going to actually share 3 specific examples of LSAs that she uses for very 3 specific reasons at Logitech, and we're excited to hear lots more about that from her. And then how do LSAs work? Mainly LSAs are an employer-funded spending account. So you'll hear spending account, customizable account, personal benefit, all types of ways in which people describe LSAs. So there's a number of words that we use interchangeably, but in the end, they're really spending accounts that are funded by the employer and used by the employee. The employer defines eligibility. They are post-tax, so you can actually decide to use an LSA for a portion of your population in one way, and use an LSA for a portion of your population in another way. There's lots of flexibility with LSAs. And then you can partner with someone like Forma, who does this really, really well globally. And then employees get to access their funds through either the web portal or through an app. They can spend it. At Forma, they can actually use their money in 3 different ways. We have a store, we have a card, and then you can also submit claims for reimbursement. And the real satisfaction for employees that comes from an LSA is that they get to actually use their money or their benefits on the things that matter most to them. Julia's going to get into this, but I'm sure we all know that well-being can be described in many different ways by every employee you talk to. So the great thing about LSAs is that employees are actually deciding to spend the money on the things that matter most. With that, I am going to have Julia just share a little bit about Logitech, who Logitech is, and their employee population, and then about their LSA program.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, so Logitech specializes in the design, manufacturing, and distribution of innovative technology products. So this would include anything like personal computing, lots of gaming products. We have audio, video conferencing, and smart home products. We were founded in 1981, and we have headquarters in both Switzerland and San Jose, California. I'm actually located in the New York area and work remotely, but have visited the San Jose location a few times. And I am the head of benefits for AMR, like we said, in global programs. So my role really focuses on the strategic planning and administration of employee benefits across the Americas, while overseeing and trying to harmonize our global programs as well. So this would include things like our global parental leave. We have global mental health benefits. We have a global anniversary program. So those fall under my umbrella. And Logitech has 5,000 employees across 43 countries. We're currently focused on sustainability and eco-friendly manufacturing and operations, which I find so amazing. We're also focused on digital transformation solutions for gaming, personal hardware tools, and most importantly, huge focus on our customers always. And we currently have 3 customizable spending accounts. Like Kathleen mentioned, we have a global wellness reimbursement program. We have tuition reimbursement, which is for our Canada and US population. We also have adoption and surrogacy reimbursement program available to our US employees. And then just recently, we also rolled over more benefits to Forma. We have the flexible spending accounts, including our commuter benefits, our health savings account, and COBRA administration. So quite the package.
Thanks, Julia. When we were preparing, you had mentioned that you had, oh, I'm sorry, we were going to go over a few of the outcomes that Logitech has seen since they started their LSA program.
Yeah, this is really good stats. So since we moved our program to Forma, it was previously with an HRIS platform in-house. We have 88% utilization, which is actually up 12% from the previous. And it's the #2 rated benefit for our employees. And it's just behind our Logi Thanks weekend. So Logi Thanks are phenomenal. Like, I can't blame everyone. That's the best benefit because we do get 4 4-day weekends a year where the entire company gets to shut down. So it's just really incredible. And with the transition to Forma, we've also been able to reduce the number of vendors that we had by 3, which is really nice.
Thanks for sharing those. I know that people love time off. We used to have summer Fridays, and that used to come #1 as well. Even despite all the other wonderful benefits we offered, the summer Fridays were usually #1. So when we were preparing for this, you mentioned that when you came to Logitech, there were lots of programs already in place for employees, and just wanted to get a better understanding from you about what prompted you to make these personalized programs into LSAs and to actually use an LSA platform to deliver them.
Yeah, so when I got to Logitech just about 3 years ago, we did have an LSA already managed in-house with our HRIS. So it was implemented in January of 2021, and I'm sure a lot of you can resonate with that time, right? So this is right in the middle of COVID. We're all looking for a way to get more physically active and be outside. So it was implemented before my time. But I know the goal was to prioritize the health and well-being of our employees during the pandemic. We also had inconsistent offerings across the different countries. So we had 12 countries that had gym subsidies, but then others had nothing. So we were looking for alignment with modern workforce trends, and employees also just have different expectations for programs now that go way beyond traditional benefits, especially when you're in the tech industry. So we were trying to solve for multiple challenges, one of them being just enhancing the employees' physical and mental health by offering a stipend, which just gave them access to more fitness programs with a goal really to reduce their overall stress and burnout. Um, we also wanted to increase productivity and focus. I know when I get outside and I get exercise, I am much more focused at my desk for the next chunk of time. And then even stepping away and taking another 30-minute walk, I can come back and refocus again. So increasing that productivity and focus. We wanted to attract and retain talent by offering personalized benefits. I think that's the goal of many of us here. We also wanted to foster equity and inclusion globally. Our well-being stipend really ensures that all the diverse demographics that we have and lifestyles are accommodated. And then it would be also wonderful, since we're self-insured in the US, to reduce healthcare costs. So by supporting preventative care, encouraging healthy living, physical activity really helps reduce chronic illness and health related expenses. So that was also a challenge we wanted to solve for. I think there's really unique advantages with an LSA to traditional benefits and wellness. I love the flexibility and choice. So employees can choose how to spend their funds on a monthly basis. So if one month, if you're building a new hobby, for example, and you're like, I just started tennis. It's like my new favorite thing. I can't stop playing. So like one month, maybe I want to spend money on shoes. Then the next month I want to start building out my racket and I need a tennis bag. You can really be flexible in how you spend the funds. It also, moving to Forma from our HRIS system, we were able to streamline our administration, and we're mostly hands-off now, which is great. So it enhanced the employee experience as well, because now we also have the Forma store, which our employees love, myself included. And then it also provided scalability across the regions, ensuring that it was uniform across all the regional needs and regulations. And then our finance team loved it because there was better cost predictability and control with the admin dashboard. You can see in real time kind of what your spend is, what's your utilization, what are employees purchasing. So it's great.
Those are all common trends and observations we hear our customers speak about. Certainly, global consistency has been a major trend and consideration, at least in the last few years. And well-being has been and continues to be a big focus. We see it in all the surveys that come out that employees really do expect their employers to provide the well-being programs, no matter how much we think that they might be underappreciated. In fact, they are appreciated. How did you decide what categories to include in your well-being program? And I ask that question because a lot of employers start first in an LSA that is a well-being LSA, and they, start to tackle or boil the ocean. But if there's a few key places they could start, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend starting narrow and then building out, because the last thing you want to do is build out too much and then you have to start taking things away. So ours was very focused on physical health. Like that was the point of this wallet LSA. Because we had the gym subsidies across the different regions, we were really trying to just provide equity across the company for that access to physical health and well-being. So it's been mostly focused on that. I will say employees reach out, of course, and ask, hey, like my dietitian recommended a juicer. Can I get that? And we look at the program and the policy all the time to see if we can expand it to make sure that employees are satisfied with the program. So just evaluate it on a constant basis to make sure that it aligns with the business and the employee expectations.
That's helpful. I was actually going to ask if you had any unique employee requests, and you just answered the juicer question. So if you
Yeah.
think of any others, feel free to share.
Okay. Yeah. I'll think.
Yeah. So you knew that you were going to use an LSA. How did you go about building a stakeholder buy-in? I know you mentioned finance and predictability, but what are some of the other things that you use to develop your business case internally?
Yeah, so I think any program that I'm looking to implement, I want the data to tell me a story. And that's usually where I pick up on market gaps, right? So of course we can know our gaps before we even get there, but a lot of times the data that you have in-house is going to tell you the story that you need in order to take the next step. So that's the first thing. What's the data telling you? What are the market trends? And present it as a strategic investment, right? So if you have both of those things, you should be able to feel in your gut it's the right thing to do, and have a strong story to tell there. So when we implemented our LSA, we were really focused on cost efficiency. We wanted workforce productivity, a long-term ROI. LSAs are a talent retention tool and a productivity tool, right? So we can use that also to align with any corporate wellness initiatives that we might have within the business. You can also look at diversity goals in the business, or even employee satisfaction benchmarks, or you can tie in all three and kind of weave all of those into your story. Those are always good places to look. So after we decided within HR benefits we wanted to implement the LSA, then we needed to meet, of course, with your executive team to get their buy-in, secure funding, ensure that LSA supports like the broader organizational goals, Luckily, our executive team was more than happy to introduce the LSA and has not pushed back much at all, which is really nice. The next team after that is definitely finance and procurement, right? So getting them on board, sharing the transparent cost model. Sometimes you can demonstrate cost savings like I did because we were able to move the LSA to Forma with that transition. Like I said, we were able to reduce 3 vendors, which provided cost savings, which was great. And then the last piece I would say is legal and compliance. So you want to make sure your program's compliant across all the different countries. We're in 43, so that's complicated. Luckily, Forma is able to offer benchmark data, which is fantastic. And it's not legal advice, but it's data that you can use to sort of guide your decisions internally with your legal team. So if you don't have a robust legal team, it's a really nice place to start because then you don't have to go to outside counsel to sort of start gathering this data and then going from there. You can kind of use the Forma data, what are other clients doing, and then start to build out your program map. The biggest pushback I would say then and now is always going to be budget, right? This is not a cheap program. This is definitely a considerable amount of money that we are investing in our employees. So you never want it to fall in this like unnecessary spend bucket. You want to continue to make sure that there's good utilization. You're listening to employee feedback. You're continuing to build out the program based on your employee needs. And what's really nice, I think, is that we have this really high utilization, but also we were able to get the administrative components off of our lap. And Forma's been able to administer the entire program, which has been really great. And then most importantly, you want your employees to live their best lives. So if this is a benefit that you truly believe in, your employees want more support in physical health and well-being, or any LSA. Your LSA could be broader. I remember the first one I ever implemented during COVID at another company was really broad. It was childcare. It included food. You could go to the local theater. We wanted people to get back into the community to support everyone during COVID. So you can really kind of do whatever you want with it, which is great.
And that's really helpful. I also liked how you framed the investment versus cost. So I think sometimes people view LSAs as a luxury or a cost, and they're not looking at it as an investment in employees. And I like the way that you framed that. And it sounds like you use that as a guiding principle throughout your discussions with the various stakeholders. So thank you for that perspective. How did you design your program? Where did you start? How did you decide what was covered? And why did you choose the 3 that you did choose where, in terms of where you started with LSAs?
Yeah, so I think that the defining part happened before my time, but in joining Logitech, I was tasked with managing over 30 vendors, which is a lot. I've managed global benefits at other companies, more startup environments, and was managing benefits in 40 plus countries, and I didn't have that many vendors. So my first thought was that I need to consolidate vendors and not only to streamline operations on our side administratively, but also to enhance the overall employee experience. Like the sheer volume of benefit cards that employees received just created such unnecessary confusion. I think upon hire, I may have received 9 benefit cards, and I own the programs and was still confused. I was like, wait, okay, so I have one for HSA. I have another card for my dependent care FSA. I've got, 4 medical cards for me and my dependents. Then I've got a separate dental and vision card that arrived that I guess wasn't supposed, like, it was just so overwhelming and confusing. So, by transitioning to Forma, which is what I wanted to do, I was able to reduce the vendors by 3, which is what we talked about, which just alleviated the administrative burden on our team. And it delivered a really seamless benefits experience for our employees. Because before transitioning to Forma, the LSA was with HRES. We have a shared service team at Logitech, which is great. So we're a very lean total rewards team, but we have this whole shared service team that supports everything we do, which is really nice. And they handled all the claims. They had the questions covered, concerns on a daily basis. And we actually looked at the data, like how much time are they spending just on this well-being reimbursement? And it was substantial. So in 6 months, they had received 761 tickets from employees. And if you were to average that out to 15 minutes per ticket, um, they spent about 190 hours over 6 months. So if you take the whole year into consideration, you've got one full-time employee who spent 9.5 weeks just responding to wellness reimbursement tickets. So that's a lot of time that they can be spending doing a lot of other strategic projects. And a lot of the questions are very straightforward, right? Like, how do I submit my claim? Is this eligible? Not a great use of their time. So by moving to Forma, we freed up valuable time for the people services team, but also enhanced the employee experience. Again, they had access to the store. It was a super simple process to submit a claim, which employees loved. And then additionally, we prioritized transitioning the tuition reimbursement and the adoption surrogacy programs, really to improve visibility of those programs and standardize the management. We had previously submitted those expenses to people services as well, where they like approved them, reviewed, they tracked the limits for those. And they were also buried on our intranet. So after you were a new hire, you would go into work and then you would kind of forget that these were available. So although we would try to promote them and communicate them, it was difficult, and that really impact utilization. So Forma really allowed to have a centralized place for the offerings, which increased transparency and drove higher engagement with all of the programs.
Out of curiosity, when you mentioned all of the time that was spent, I think you said 9.5 weeks internally with the team. Did you have that information when you were building your business case? Because we often find that folks actually don't know how much time their team is spending. Sometimes they're doing this as an like thing off the side of their desk. Same thing, like adoption surrogacy can be very, very manual when it's tracked internally against limits and things like that. So just curious if you use that in your business case or if you wish you had that information with your business case.
No, I don't think I knew the exact numbers, but I knew it was a lot. Like when we talked to the people services team, they're like, oh yeah, we're answering questions almost daily about this program. And so it was the broader picture for me was this vendor consolidation because I just wanted the employee experience to be smoother. But then I always try not to focus too much on the administrative burden on the employer because I feel like if it's worth it for the employee, then we can bear the grunt. It's okay, but I think on it came out to both sides just didn't make sense. And I felt like we were offering these programs. The LSA was used more, but the other programs weren't used barely at all. And I hate offering a benefit and then bearing it. It's like if we're gonna offer it, let's like promote it and make sure employees know um, it's available. So I don't think I had the exact numbers, but I definitely knew it was a burden to the team.
You also mentioned having lots of cards and the consolidation aspect of it. And even now, with all of the digital, health applications, people also have lots of apps on their phone to go to. And one of the great things that you talked about earlier, and then also too in the prep was, LSAs and well-being LSAs are a way to actually go out and experience well-being out in the wild, like outside, out in nature, do your sport, do your thing, however that is, whatever that means to you. Whether it's painting, outside or knitting or whatever it is, go actually experience it rather than spending time on a digital tool. So just out of curiosity, you mentioned the consolidation, and did you see a lot of reduced fragmentation, or did people really know where to go for what, or did you still have a lot of, did you need to guide them there?
I think it probably took a month or so for people to like realize we were outside of the HRIS now. We were at a new platform, even though we promoted it a ton. Like, I don't know that this is like if there's a vendor out there that can solve the problem of like how to get information in the employee's hands when they need it in a communicative way, please let me know. But yeah, I feel like it took a minute, but then all of a sudden we would get this positive feedback like, wow, that was so easy, or I love the store, oh, that was so cool, it was so like intuitive, I was able to just go in and submit it and I didn't even need help. So it was definitely a very short learning curve.
That's really helpful. Um, in terms of measuring success, you've mentioned a few of them already, but can you share some more, both also not just the numbers, but also some qualitative results you've seen?
Yeah, so the LSA, the well-being reimbursement we saw from the transition from the HRIS platform to Forma a 12% increase in utilization, which is great. So 88% overall utilization. We also saw a 7% increase in spend, which is fantastic on my end. I don't know how finance feels about that, but I think it's okay. They're very supportive. We had 89% approved claims. And then the most popular categories included athletic shoes, and that has been the number one category the last few years, which I just find so funny because I'm like, how many shoes do we all have at this point? We look like everybody's got to look really good going to the gym at this point in time. But athletic shoes, definitely gym memberships, smartwatches has been a big one, fitness classes, and then athletic clothing. So those have kind of been the top categories. I love ClassPass. That is my new find within Forma in the store. Was going to multiple gyms in my community. I was doing a bar class, I was doing a strength training, there was a Pilates studio that I loved. And all of them, each class was like $25 a class, and it was so expensive. And then I found ClassPass and I realized all three of those were in ClassPass. So now I pay like $140 a month with ClassPass and I can go unlimited to these classes because I always have leftover points every month. So it's been really awesome. I've been really happy with that. So that's the LSA. We also have seen with our tuition reimbursement 150% increase in utilization. Like that is crazy, just based on, I think, the visibility of it, the ease of it. We have 28 employees who recently have approved claims and are getting further education, which is great. And then our adoption and surrogacy had zero claims for a few years. Like there were a few years we offered that program and zero. We finally have our first claim. So I will say we're up 100% in utilization and we're very excited about it. And we're just hoping that it goes up and up. So those are kind of the stats related to these programs that we love to see. Is exactly why we moved to Forma. We also have a couple quotes from employees that I love. So one of them is that they said, "I hope the wellness reimbursement program will continue to be provided. I was able to develop my physical strength by receiving support for fitness fees, and it led to an increase on my work concentration." I'm like, yeah, that was the goal. So nailed it, which is great. And then another employee said, "The wellness reimbursement is super simple to use. It gives me the freedom to find the health resources that work best for me." So again, flexibility and choice, giving the employee sort of the reins to decide what they want to get into. Maybe it's a new hobby, maybe it's, they miss yoga, maybe it's Pilates, whatever it is. Maybe it's just a vest, so like a weighted vest so they can go on walks more with their dog. Whatever gets them outside and feeling good and just moving their body is all we want to see.
And do you use these results year over year when you're going back to finance and kind of explaining, hey, this is what I need for the budget, this is what my experience has been? Are you using both, the literal employee feedback as well as the stats?
If we ever get enough pushback that the program is at risk, I will absolutely have these ready to go in my back pocket. Fortunately, I think that when you look at that utilization at 88%, you can't take that away. How do you, like, a benefit like that is really hard to take away because I think there would be an uproar from employees.
Yeah, for sure. It's certainly hard to take anything away, but when something is so loved and utilized like that, you're not going to take that away. In terms of modifying or where you might go with the program in the future, can you share a little bit about that? Anything on top of mind?
Yeah, so the goal again was really to simplify and consolidate some of these vendor partnerships. Forma really stood out. I had known Forma from a previous employer. Actually, Jason, the CEO, was like our implementation manager long ago, which was so great. So that's how I originally sort of got connected with Forma. So I knew you as a partner and a vendor, and you're one of the few vendors that are really capable of supporting all of the accounts, both in AMR and globally, that I oversee here at Logitech. So I think when it comes to the simplicity of the platform and the user-friendly design, it's just been really well received from our employees. And it was kind of a no-brainer just to go to Forma. Additionally, I love Forma's forward-thinking approach and commitment to like incorporating their client feedback. I think that's been instrumental really in just continuously improving the product and shaping everything to meet our needs. We've met with Forma on multiple occasions for different tax advantage accounts that we have in different countries like Ireland or Switzerland. Like if we have the ability to connect with you and say, we don't see this offered now, but would you offer it in the future? I mean, Forma will jump on a call and deep dive into like, okay, well, what exactly do you need? Give us the outline. They'll work with us. Even if it's not offered now, they'll definitely throw it in the roadmap for future, which I love. So I think down the line, we are kind of poking around and looking at potential like medical wallet for travel assistance for US employees. I think with everything that's going on in the administration, there's so much change all the time. It's nice to offer something as a buffer in case employees need to travel for their health. So that's something we're kind of looking around at. And then I also am keeping a very close eye on what Forma does in the recognition and reward space.
And one of the great things about LSAs too is that you can dial up and dial down and kind of modify on the fly. So have you been doing a lot of that, or do you find that you pick the well-being categories that worked out really well with your employees, or are you doing any employee feedback and or employee feedback loops and modifying from there?
Yeah, so we have employee surveys that go out, and we definitely get sort of aggregated data and feedback from employees through that. We also did a well-being survey, I think it's 2 years ago now, and kind of gathered some feedback around the program. So far, I think people have been pretty content with the physical health and well-being category because we also offer a mental health one benefit separately, so that's been kind of in a different bucket. So at this point, I think we're okay. But again, as feedback comes in, I'm always evaluating, like, is it worth throwing in? Can we broaden it a little bit and sort of stretch the parameters there?
Is there any category that you don't have now that you wish you could offer?
Um,
And you
I
don't have to answer, but I just thought of that off the top of my head. If you could.
Yeah, I mean, I did like I said, a previous company where it was super broad. I mean, this was during COVID though, when everybody was just so overwhelmed, right? And like I had two kids that were, I think they were 3 and 5, and working from home all of a sudden, daycare, and people just needed help. So I loved at that time how broad our stipend was because it was like, okay, if you need childcare this month, use it for childcare. If you need to buy your kids educational resources to like get them some sort of digital thing that they can poke around on while you're trying to tackle your meetings, great, do that. Or if it was food, like if you needed to, or if you want to support your local community and you want to go to the local theater or the farmers market, like I love that kind of thought, or, I think that's always really nice. But, um, you know, another, like we'll tackle that another day, but I love that thought.
And before we move on to Q&A soon, is there any piece of advice you'd give to folks who are entering into the LSA space for the first time or who might be running a bunch of programs internally and thinking, I can't possibly, move any of these and I can't find the budget to do so if I wanted to? Or is there pieces of advice that you would give folks?
Yeah, so I feel like our workplaces are continuing to evolve all the time. Like when I think about my role 10 to 15 years ago, it's so different than it is now. Like I feel like 10 and 15 years ago, benefits, HR were just looked at as like a very administrative function in the business. And now I would say total rewards is one of the most strategic functions. And it's a really exciting time to be within total rewards. So I think that in itself is going to evolve, but then also business needs are going to evolve, especially, in the current climate. There's the tariffs and everything kind of, impacting every business is going to be planning financially very different. So I would just try to stay ahead by offering really thoughtful, adaptable programs for your diverse workforce, because that flexibility and choice is going to be key. So you can kind of switch on the fly. I love the implementation of an LSA like we have. I think that is an easy solve for here's a bucket of money, use it how you need it. I also think that we're all going to be leveraging technology very different. And I think about AI and machine learning tools, like those are coming out left and right. Every vendor's coming to us like, now we have an AI chatbot for the blah, blah, blah. It's great. But also learning how to use those yourself in a daily manner, because I think it's going to help drive efficiency. But making sure like any of those solutions that you're looking to implement within your function are very human touch focused, because you don't want to kind of lose that. You don't want it to be too robotic, right? But that automation should really enhance connection, right? So I would look at that. And then I think our role, at least in benefits and total rewards, is to promote community and connection within the business. So every program that we offer should really pushing employees to either connect internally with their colleagues or externally with their loved ones, right? So whatever we try to do, we're trying to promote work-life balance. And I think that is the goal. And I'm a huge advocate. I will say I was not always a work-life balancer. I got to the point where I had like a pinched nerve in my neck and sciatica in my leg. This is prior to Logitech. I just worked, and just got to the point where I realized like that work-life balance is so important. And now I actually feel like I'm more productive and efficient at my job than I was then, because I'm able to take the time, decompress, and then get back to my desk, and then I'm excited to be there. So yeah, I would say keep in mind your workplace is unique. So, with great leadership, I think you got to think about the flexibility and choice of your employees. Again, look at that data, what's the storytelling, and balance your organizational goals with personalized strategies, and meet employees where they are, which will hopefully drive better outcomes for you and your business.
And I loved how you mentioned community and camaraderie too. I think that's a really important thing. And we're always trying to build that as benefits leaders and HR leaders. And LSAs are sort of a natural way to do it. To your point about, actually enabling people to get out in the community and participate, whether it's a sport or something that they love to do, or even internally, building that camaraderie. Maybe you have a tennis team of folks you work with, or, some sort of challenge that you do together, or so I love the fact that LSAs kind of allow you both that community and camaraderie, both at work and at home. So that's a really great tool. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we take some questions before the from the audience, or that I didn't ask you that you're dying to share?
I don't think so. I think it was thorough. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so we're gonna take some questions now. Thank you, Steve. Welcome
Yep.
back.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was excellent. We have dozens of questions.
Oh, great.
So yes, the audience is very engaged. So one of the top things that one person asked is, did anything surprise you along the way when you were introducing these programs? Something you weren't expecting, Julia?
Um, well, okay. Well, I think of a few things.
Mhm.
One is budget. It's more expensive than you might think, but you can always start small and you can always add more as time goes on, and you sort of like prove your case of the value of the benefit. So keep that in mind. You're gonna hear employees complain no matter what you roll out. You're literally giving them free money, and someone will complain. And that's okay. Like it never bothers me. Like I am always open to hearing the feedback. I love the feedback. I think you have to listen to the majority of the population within your business. If everybody, 85% of the business is loving it, and you've got maybe 5% that just are, not, then you kind of hear them out. Like, what are they not loving about it? Maybe they didn't understand how to use it, whatever, whatever it is. But just keep that in mind. Like feedback is great, but take it with a grain of salt. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that would be my feedback.
Well, in keeping with that question, thank you for your candor there. That you're going to get some feedback. Um, Jennifer in the audience says, "What has been your most well-received communication pathway to employees, not just for the LSA, but for benefits well-being offerings in general?"
Oh, this is the toughest challenge I think benefits is trying to solve. Like I every conference I go to, I'm like looking for a vendor that solved this problem. And I don't want another app that employees have to go to. I want a way that we as benefit leaders can send out information to employees. Because I think, like Kathleen and I talked about this, like I think people have app fatigue. Like I know I'm a millennial, like I'm turning 41 in a week. Like I grew up with nothing. I had, my mom used to give me her pager when I'd go through the park. Like I didn't have a phone until, later in life. So we all kind of like dove into apps and technology. And then now I think we're all kind of taking a breath, like, whoa, we want real life experiences. We want to get out into the world. We want human connection again. At least a lot of us, not maybe everyone. So, um, yeah, I think that that has been a big focus as well.
Mhm. And now, how do you, here's another one that's kind of related, which is how do you train HR business partners or people who are in the HR realm to answer questions about the LSAs? And can Forma support that? Maybe Kathleen, you could talk about just overall.
Sure. I mean, I think the thing that always works the best with HR business partners is the train the trainer. So spending the actual time with your HR business trainers explaining not only what the program is, but why the program was designed the way it is, why you're doing it, kind of all of the contextual information that an HR person is going to want to have when they get asked a question about the program. I think sometimes we can get more fixated on the features or the thing and forget about the why and the how and the real importance of why you're offering an LSA. Maybe it's to amplify certain things within your own culture, et cetera. But so definitely the train the trainer aspect of it. And we do provide communications tools and resources to our customers. Having been in a benefits role for a long time, I used to actually find the communications aspect of it. While I agree, Julia, it's frustrating because you can never find the magic bullet that pleases everyone and provides the information just in time. It actually is sort of enjoyable to sit down and try to write communications that you think are going to resonate with employees, and then also take the feedback and tweak them and fix them and make them more meaningful for the next round of communications. I think people also always forget that benefits communications are slotted into an entire year's worth of communications from a corporation, right? So everything from earnings calls to specific initiatives that leadership might have, and then you've got to find that specific time that you can talk about your benefits. But for sure, I really always liked to spend the time with the HR business partners directly.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to what Kathleen's saying,
Yep.
so sorry, the original question around communication, I would say hit them at every angle you possibly can, right? Like you've got the ability to send it in a newsletter, send it in a newsletter, send it via email directly, send it in chats, promote it on your intranet. Like the more you can promote your benefit in the dozens of different ways, the better. You can also lean on your ERGs. So I think it's great to have benefit advocates in-house. So if you create a community within the company and you meet with them on a regular basis and kind of say like, hey, we've got this new benefit, we want your help rolling it out. And if it gets organically like infiltrated into the business, like that is a huge win.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you. And here's a question from Jason in the audience, who's a kind of a practical thing, which is how do employees get approved for items through Forma? Is there a list they can choose from? So a little bit about the interface, maybe, and then and maybe also then how those items are chained, uh, filtered.
Sure. So the employer will decide what categories of coverage and what items per se are covered under the LSA. And then via the app or on the desktop portal, an employee can go in and actually see not only their own policy, but they can filter on all the items that they're eligible for. In addition, if you have the store turned on, the employee will see categories of goods and services that they can purchase. Only the goods and services that their employer has as part of their program will be shown to the employee. But all of that is something that they can easily see on the app or on the desktop portal.
And you can change your policy in almost real time. Like if an employee comes to us and says like, "Hey, I want to add this nutrition program. Is this included?" And our policy currently says no. We can email Forma literally that day and say, "Hey, we'd actually like to throw in nutrition programs." And they'll be like, "Great, update the policy," and it's updated in real time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's responsive.
Yeah.
Now, going upstream a little when you're getting going in this program, and when you're considering adding things, one audience member asked, what are some resources you used when you were researching LSAs? or other personalized options, both the programs covered by it and just,
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
adapt it.
So Forma has great benchmark data that they can provide on their clientele, which is just a great place to start. Like if they can provide you global data, the global minimum, median, and max
Mhm.
ranges for the stipend amounts, like you can at least take that, digest it, and start to figure out what you want to do and what makes sense with the budget that you've been allocated. Maybe it's less than the minimum, but that's a great start. So that's a great starting point. You also can get, I mean, I think most of us have benefit broker teams, right? So we work with our benefit broker all the time when it comes to like, hey, we're thinking of this LSA account, provide us benchmarking, and they can pull, you know, benefits data from all their different market surveys and start to put together resources. So I think those are just like great starting points. And then from there, you can kind of build out what makes sense for your population.
I'm actually going to pop up two QR codes because one of them actually is the benchmarking report that Julia was just referring to. We do this annually. So this is the 2025 report. And then also, if you want to take away an actual copy of the case study for Logitech and Forma, there's also a QR code for that as well. So I'll leave that up for a couple minutes and then we'll continue with the Q&A.
And that's just great because you anticipated a question from Jason, who said, how can we hear more about Forma? So thank you. Now, another member of the audience asks, and this is Diana, how do you define return on investment for this program? You did touch on that a little bit about measuring success, but how sharply can you define it? And then that gets to justifying it in terms of the C-suite and the investment and et cetera.
Yeah, so it really depends on how much your C-suite is going to push on that, right? So to me, the ROI is looking at the utilization at 88%. There's really no arguing with that. I feel like that's like, okay, everybody's clear. Like, obviously, employees want this. We're keeping it in place. Unless there was like a significant financial hardship on the business and we had to pause the program or something. I definitely think you can look at your claims. If you're self-insured, I would monitor your claims after implementing a program like this. See if the physical health and well-being has any impact on chronic conditions or health claims. I think you are looking at productivity in a way, but like again, I don't think there's really a way for us all to evaluate exactly what that looks like.
Mhm.
But you can usually get feedback from employees too and use that to sort of leverage your ROI. But I think a lot of these programs, even when I look at like the mental health programs that we have as well, you can kind of see like a well-being index, like how are people feeling, how are they doing, how are they utilizing the resources, and you just have to come to the point that like, okay, if this many people are actually leveraging this program, it could have a significant impact on their productivity, health, and well-being, right? But I don't have like exact numbers. Again, like our team hasn't really pushed back, so we've been fortunate that the utilization has just kind of spoke for itself.
I was actually fortunate over the years as well, Julia, to not have much pushback from finance on a hard ROI in some of these programs as
Mhm.
well. And in the end, it came to kind of do the right thing. And if employees are using it and they're getting the right things out of it, you're doing the right thing by your employees. That's ROI in itself.
Yeah.
It's sounds like good advice in terms of reaching the C-suite on that. Now, here's the question you mentioned. One of you mentioned culture and alignment, and one person asked, "How do you ensure LSAs don't feel transactional, but rather connected to company values?" Now, I suppose the whole point of LSAs is that people feel like they're not a commodity. It's just like you work an hour and you get a certain amount of money. It's more individualized, which makes it perhaps less transactional. Does that follow?
Yeah, I guess I feel like if you were to offer a gym, that feels very siloed, right? So like if I'm going to say, okay, everybody in the San Jose office lives near XYZ gym, like a Equinox or whatever it is. Not everybody wants to go to the gym. Like not every, a lot of people would feel very turned off by that. Like, well, I don't want a gym membership. And now like, what do I get as compensation? Because you're offering the gym and I don't want to go there. I want to go to my rowing place, or I like to walk with my spouse, or whatever they like to do. So it may feel transactional, but again, you've got the Forma store. So that in itself, I think, is like an experience, like navigating through the store, like what do I want to buy, like looking at your options. What the store is populated based on what's in your policy. So they're never going to have something in there that's not eligible for the employee. But yeah, it is going to be a transactional sort of benefit. But again, I think when you look at the bigger picture, it's more inclusive and gives the employees the flexibility and choice that they can really do whatever they want on a monthly basis with the money. Whereas, like, if you were to offer a certain well-being benefit or gym or, you know, mental health app or something, like sometimes that's only going to connect with 20% of the population. So I think I'd look at the bigger picture versus like the actual submitting of the expense, because the submitting part's actually super easy. You just go in, upload a receipt, put in the amount, the merchant, vendor, and then hit submit. So
Well, and people have generally, associated LSAs with fitness, as you said, the gym, fitness, things like that, but the definition is expanded based on demand, right? In fact, I think we had a benefits speaker at one of our events say that that their LSA was covering groceries and things like that. So
yeah.
how much has it expanded, and where do you not draw the line, but how far do you go? Kathleen, maybe you have the bigger picture there.
Well, I think there's multiple schools of thought on that, but we do see a lot of employers starting to look at the convenience. So I would call that like grocery, the laundry services, maybe the lawn mowing services, things like that, that are helping employees like when they're away from work, they want to be spending the time with their family or on their hobbies or the things that they really love to do outside of work. So maybe perhaps, mowing the lawn or doing 6 loads of laundry on Saturday isn't something that you're looking forward to doing, or nor would you want to use the time that you have on the weekend to be doing that. So we are seeing employers consider things like convenience, but also essentials. Like inflation has, obviously wages have not kept up with inflation. So there's just lots of need around essentials as well. I mean, ultimately, you can't include everything because not everyone has, well, I don't know anyone who has an unlimited budget. So you'll want to be able to draw a line somewhere so that you can continue to afford the program year after year and the most employees possible can get the most out of the benefit. But we do see lots of employers widening the benefit. And then we also see employers who are being very specific with things like, Julia mentioned with education, like really wanting people to upskill and reskill. So they're spending their time and effort on an education spending account or an education reimbursement. So it's a little bit all over the place, but definitely seeing employers acknowledge that the LSA is not necessarily a luxury. It also provides for essentials and convenience, and that is meaningful to employees.
Now, do you have any, Julie, in your experience, and maybe Kathleen, you could weigh in on this too, but do you have any sense of fairness concerns? Like if people don't use their benefits, it seems like as the definition expands, then that problem may be reduced. But does fairness come up?
Yeah, there's people who are not interested in physical health and well-being, right?
Mm,
So sometimes that's feedback you're going to receive. Your hope is that they can find something again, you can buy athletic clothes and athletic shoes within our policy. So even if you just bought a pair of Nikes that you're going to wear to the office and not necessarily go running in, that's still eligible. So I think that there's enough within the program policy that you can kind of push back on that a little bit. But again, when you have a program that has 88% utilization, like budget to me is already at the top. So a part of you is like, well, we might as well just include whatever we want. We're already spending practically the whole budget. So it's
yeah.
not like, some programs that have 55% utilization and then you expand it and then all of a sudden your budget skyrockets and then it's sort of a red flag in the business. But yeah, again, you're always going to receive pushback from some employees. It's not going to be suitable for everyone. And you just try to do your best to sort of, massage that situation to make sure that they feel, that they can use it for something that can be supportive to them and their family.
Mhm. And Kathleen, One of your audience members asks, how do you see Forma evolving as workforce expectations shift? And those might be generational or economic or just corporate culture changing.
Well, actually, good question. And we actually do track the way in which people interact with the product and the store and what they're purchasing based on generations. So we have some information that we'll be able to follow up and share with that as well. So buying patterns and interests are very different across the generations in the workforce from LSAs. But LSAs are incredibly flexible, and our technology is incredibly flexible. So even if it's something that we can't see around the corner right now or we can't see coming down the road, no one saw COVID coming down the road. No one saw everybody going home to work for 2 weeks at home and staying there, I don't know, 5 years. But those are the types of things that LSAs and a platform like Forma enable you. You don't have to worry about the fact that you're going to be caught off guard that those are coming. You're able to respond to them in real time when they happen. Certainly things like natural disasters as well. So those are all of those types of things that you don't, unfortunately, you can't and don't want to have to anticipate, but they occur. The technology really allows you to respond to that.
And we have time for one more question, and that is, I'll direct it to you, Julia. Is there anything that you learned about employees that you might not have learned if you didn't have this program? In other words, is it another way of engaging with workers and finding out what they need, what they expect?
I mean, I didn't know that we need so many shoes like that. The fact that athletic shoes has been the number one topic or like sold product, or reimbursed amount, whatever, for the last 2 years. It's just so funny to me. I love that. I mean, who doesn't love a new pair of shoes to go to the gym or wherever? No, our employees are kind of all over the place when it comes to the different generations. We have very long tenured employees. Not a lot of turnover. So our culture sort of speaks for itself. It's an incredible place to work. I know that our employees love physical health. It's in every data source that we have. It's always there. It's always the theme. So luckily, this is very complementary to our population. Again, that's why I would start with the data. Like, what's the story there that you're trying to pull from? Because then, if you believe in the story, then it's really easy to tell that story to leadership. But they love challenges, like especially our APAC region. They are the most competitive when it comes to any physical health challenge that we roll out. They're trying to get number one, which I love to see that. So.
Well, great. And by the way, the thing about shoes, it's not frivolous. I was complaining to my sister, who's an athlete, that my feet hurt, and she said, "Well, sneakers wear out. You can't wear them for like 5 or 10 years and expect them to, So that gave me affirmation about buying a new pair of shoes. So anyhow, thank you both, Kathleen, Julia. Appreciate all your insights here and experience with rolling out a program and making it a big success. So thanks again to you both and to Forma for your support, for their support, and to all of you who participated today. Now, before you all sign off, I'm going to drop a link again in the chat for some complimentary VIP tickets. It's for our virtual conference coming up on September 10th. And it's about productivity boosters, how HR leaders can play a big role in worker efficiency. And I'm also putting a link in the chat about a survey on elevating employee voice. And we'd love to have you participate in that. So check it out. And on behalf of all my colleagues at From Day One, thanks for participating today. Stay well, and bye for now. We hope to see you again sometime.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.